Welcome back. In this video, we're going to focus on managing UCCX server. So far, we have talked about the integration with COCM, the installation, the overview. Now, what we're going to talk about is day-to-day administration. Now, if you want to access your call manager, you probably know that by now how to access your call manager. But just in case if you don't, you go to the IP address of your call manager followed by CCM admin, which will give you an access to web admin of your call manager platform. Now, one of the things that we need to do in our call manager sometime manage is the user accounts. And these user accounts are some of them are created by the UCCX server, and some of them are created by the administrator. In call manager or COCM, there are two types of user accounts you have: the application user account, and then you have the end user account. UCCX, for the most case, will manage the application user account remotely, as you can change the username or the password from the UCCX, which will get updated in the COCM because of the integration. But the end user account, on the other hand, is not managed by the UCCX. So this is where you and I will have to manage our own end user account. Call manager can have local end user account or can be integrated with your Microsoft Active Directory or any third-party LDAP server. So let's take a look at some of the accounts that was created by the UCCX and some of the accounts that we will be creating. So we will log into our call manager. So here under the user management, you got the application user. And here you'll see there's two accounts that was created by the UCCX system. The way you know it was created by external application or something that was not default is because you are able to delete that. Whereas these accounts are not something that you can delete. So now these accounts will be handled by the UCCX for different purposes. If I go to my UCCX server, I can manage those accounts by going to, let's say, JTAPI, telephony provider. And if I want to change the username that was created by the UCCX, I will click on modify and I can change the username right about here. If I make a change to, let's say, 222, it will go and create either a new one or new account and then associate with the necessary integration interfaces. For the same thing with RM users, I could do that here as well. Now, what are the purpose of these accounts? The JTAPI account is mostly used for JTAPI communication. UCCX will use this account for CTI route point and CTI ports. Those are the two call control element between these two systems. When a call comes into UCCX, it will hit a CTI route point, which will require some sort of authorization in order to communicate with the UCCX, and it does so with this particular account. Whereas RM users is a user account that we're going to use to manage the phone, because we want the UCCX to be able to manage the agent phone. In this case, whichever phone that you are designating as an agent. In an organization, you may have 5,000 phones. Not all of them are going to be an agent. So you allocate, let's say, 200 phones who are going to represent as an agent. You need to associate those phones to this particular RM users. You'll go to this user account and then you will assign them under control device. This way, UCCX will know which phone will be acting as an agent. Now, it could be used for statistic purpose, could be used for collecting data, could be used to push data into the phone screen, stuff like that. Now, these account RMCM will be given appropriate privilege or call manager group. Unless you have an absolute valid reason to change them or modify them, I would probably keep the default. Now, if you want to add more account, like I say, let's say you have additional 50 agents who are added to your organization, you could simply drop down from your list and add those phones, for example, into this group. Unless the phone is associated with this particular user account, UCCX will not treat that phone an agent phone. Therefore, what will happen is when you try to log into FINAS web interface, it will basically give you an error message saying invalid devices. All right, so we saw the differences between the UCC end users and application users. At any given time, if you realize that you have to change the password, well, certainly you could do that from the call manager, CUCM, but most likely it's better to do it from right about here. So as you can see, there was a warning that updating user details delete the previous configured user. This change could affect other application. Now, I'm not going to make that change. I'm just going to show you an example. All right, so that's the same thing with RMCM. If you do need to change the RM provider's user account, you could do that by coming into this area. Okay, so we have seen the creation, how UCCX will create those accounts. Next is CTI ports. In UCCX, these are called IVR ports. You have a basic IVR ports and advanced IVR ports. Basic IVR ports are automatically a part of your system. You don't have to pay additional for that. Whereas IVR ports will, advanced IVR port, you'll have to purchase the premium license. Now, when UCCX wants to integrate with the call manager, you need to create a channel, number of simultaneous calls that will be allowed. So each CTI ports basically carries one call at a time, and that particular CTI port will be in use as long as the user is connected to the UCCX system, meaning to the IVR platform. Now, if the user hang up the call or transfer the call to the agent, only then the CTI ports will be released. So CTI ports is just like a phone. A CTI port is defined in call manager, but its physical presence is kind of doesn't exist. So there's no physical phone associated with that. Now the UCCX server will use the CTI ports to connect calls so that it may then interact with the caller for IVR or ACD purposes. Now these CTI ports will be grouped together into and then assign it to your JTAP user, the one that we just saw a few minutes ago. CTI ports are defined in UCCX, will be associated with the application users. The CTI port for the UCCX are created from the UCCX administration page. It is recommended to create it from the UCCX site rather than from the call manager site. So let's take a look at our CTI ports. Here I'm on my UCCX under CM telephony. You have something called call control group. Now these CTI ports are used for signaling and all other stuffs between them. So here you can see the call control group. I have a group ID number 0 and I have a description called help desk, and I've created 4 CTI ports. And if you look at the list of ports, you'll see their name as defined here. So I have defined only the first extension of the first port, but the system will increment that by 1. So it is important that you select a number that does not overlap with any other extension that you already have. So it is not going to work. Now, as I create this call control group, I'm going to define how many simultaneous port calls, media termination support. If you want to enable MTP, you could select that option. I'm not going to do that right now. The group type could either be inbound or outbound at the time of creation, but once you create the group, you cannot change their behavior. Device prefix could be any name that you want to identify as. So that becomes a device name in call manager or CUCM. Device pool, you can set other settings, device pool, your caller ASCII names, calling source space, voicemail profile, call pickup group, anything that you think could be useful. Now in call manager, under devices, you go to phone and you will see these as an endpoint. Now they are not physical phone, keep in mind, but they are kind of like act as a phone. That's what the CTI ports are basically all about. And here you'll see that they are registered with the IP address of the UCCX server, and they're all registered to the subscriber. The reason behind this, if you go to the call manager group, here you see the subscriber is the first primary. So therefore, all devices that you see here will be automatically registered with the subscriber as a first choice. All right, so that's basically what the CTI port does. CTI route point, on the other hand, is your trigger point. This is when you dial your help desk, let's say your toll-free number. If your toll-free number 1-800-777-0060, you want portion of that number, or the last 7 digit or last 4 digit or 10 digit, totally up to you. Every company is different, keep in mind. And I want, when you call that number, the call should go to the contact center or to the call center. Now, CTI route point is mostly for inbound. It is actually for inbound, and it can handle anywhere between up to I believe is 10,000 calls simultaneously, each number. CTI route point can be characterized as a logical device which has no physical attribute. It is registered by an external application such as UCCX, E911, and many other applications. A route point is a logical device, but it will have a very similar characteristic as a physical phone does, except there will not be any MAC address. A route point is a pointer to an external application. So it's not basically, therefore it is not going to receive call. It's not going to be basically for making an outbound call. It's only for inbound communication. Route point will define in UCCX as a UCCX trigger, and that trigger will be associated with an application. Route point in UCCX creates a trigger that will be associated with an application, therefore in return pointing to a particular script. So if I go to my UCCX server, I will have under subsystem, you'll see there's something called trigger. A trigger is basically equivalent of route point in call manager. If I were to add a trigger, it's going to ask me an application that I want to use. So right now you'll notice that I don't have any application. So let's go and create an application. Under application management, I'm going to use an application, and it's going to be Cisco script application. And here the application name will be called my demo. Number of calls 4, and the script, I'm going to use a sample script that comes with the system auto attendant, and I'm going to add. Now this is going to create an application called demo, which is pointing to an application called aa.aef, which is a script written by UCCX script editor. On the left hand side, you see the add trigger right there. This is the number that you want people to dial in order to call, invoke, or execute this application. This application is auto attendant, which will say, welcome to Voice Bootcamp. All of our agents are as well. Welcome to Voice Bootcamp. If you know your part is extension, press 1. Otherwise, please wait for the operator or receptionist. So that's simple as that. So add a trigger means I need to dial something in order to execute this application. So I'm going to dial the last 4 digits of my toll-free number. So here I have a trigger. Trigger could come in either a telephony trigger or HTTP trigger. So I'm going to click next. We're going to define 0060. That is my last 4 digits of my toll-free number. And I'm going to call this VBC auto attendant. Okay, call control group, which call control group it will use to receive calls is going to be the help desk. Now, if I could have multiple call control group, I could create multiple call control group. If I want to separate them, perfectly up to you. When you add this trigger, what's going to happen is it's going to go to call manager and it's going to create a CTI route point. So let's go to call manager. This is under device, CTI route point, and I should see, if I click on find, the VBC auto attendant. And as you can see, the VBC auto attendant is registered by the UCCX server, and the extension of that number is 0060. At this moment, if I dial that number, it's going to play auto attendant. Okay, so you can see that I do have a one phone registered, and if I were to dial this number 0060.
Welcome to the automated attendant. To enter the phone number.
So I have just, this is basically what the trigger does. Now the UCCX administration is done by logging into the IP address of the UCCX server, followed by the app admin. You will log in and you will get into the web page. Now you can make some day-to-day changes, although you're not going to do changes the call manager IP address on a regular basis, but you may have some day-to-day stuff like adding agent, assigning the certain skills, whatnot. So it's important that you are familiar with different menus so that you know exactly where to go. Now, for example, let's say you decided that, hey, I'm going to have a new call manager publish subscriber install, and I would like to include that into my AXL providers. So you will go to the system menu and then you add the call CUCM, where if you have an additional call manager that needs to be added, you can drag and drop into this area. Or if your username or admin password has changed because of your day-to-day monthly or every quarterly, you guys have a policy to change password, then you will have to update the password in the UCCX server as well. So if I go to my UCCX, under system menu, you got Cisco Unified CM configuration. So here I can change the username and the password if anything changed here, or I can add a new call manager if I have a new one. JTAPI configuration, I've shown you that you could change the JTAPI users and the password as well as the IP address. Sometimes what happens is you may have two IP addresses already there, primary and secondary, but you realize that one of your server, you need to take it offline for maintenance purposes. You may want to come into this page and remove that server from the list so that in case that server failed to come back online or is down for a long period of time, it doesn't affect the call processing. RMCM, same concept. System parameters, there are certain things you may want to change in the system parameters, like the default TTS provider, text to speech, the codec, the currency, and you can do that by going to the system menu and click on system parameters. So system parameters, you could initialize supervisor access, a maximum number of executed steps and stuff like that. So here you can see that there are 1,000 steps you can execute in a script. So if your script has more than 1,000, then you may want to increase that value here. Language, if you want to change your language because either you may have accidentally choose a wrong language to begin with, you could come into system and language information and change the language if you prefer. You can specify the default language, you can specify the language they want to use for finance and whatnot. So here on the system menu, you got the language information, and you can see I can set the default IVR language, and I can choose the default for the group as well. Prompt management. Prompt management is where you upload all your prompts. Now, prompts are organized based on the language that you have. There are certain language folder already created, or you can create your own language folder or whatever the folder name you want to define. So you go to application, prompt management, and here you can upload all the prompts. So let's say I'm going to upload all my prompt in the US. So I will go to the prompt, and you will have to select all the prompt that you want to upload. So I can go to my, let's say, so I have all the prompt in one particular zip file called prompt.zip, and I can upload all that zip file, and it's going to upload all the prompt that are available into my zip file. Now this prompt can be hosted here into the US folder, or if you have an English, French, you could upload that into the French folder as well. Now, as a Canadian, I do sometimes we do deal with a call center that requires a French language, and therefore we sometimes have to enable it. Now, I don't have a French language here, so what I'll do, I will create a language. I'm going to call this language edit FRCA. So the French Canadian, we have a French, and then we have a French Canadian version of the French. So I will select that, and it's going to create, if you look at, it's going to create a folder called FR French. And in here, I will upload my French prompt, which slightly different folder. Okay, so I'm going to upload the French. Now, this particular zip file contains not just a list of all the prompts, but they are in a different directory structure. So whatever you have in the zip form, as you can see, all those directory will also be uploaded here as well in the appropriate locations. All right, so these are different prompts that you can manage from your prompt management page. Yeah. Now you can create your, you can record your own prompt as long as the prompt format follows this standard. G711, G729 has to be ITU standard, 8-bit, 8-bit, 8K sample, mono, MULA, and save it as a web file. Script management, you can upload all your script under script management. You will see all the scripts that are available to you that you have developed. This does not include the script that comes with the system. So if I go to application, script management, you'll see there's nothing in there. I can upload my own script if I want to. As I develop them, I will upload, of course, I will upload the script right about here. Document management. If you need to upload a document, could be an XML, PDF, HTML file, you will go to the application document management to upload all your documents. So for example, I want to go to upload document and I want to upload my own document in US folder. So here is my document and let's see. So I got some documents here, XML file. I'm going to upload one of them and then it becomes part of my repository. So anytime I need to use this, I could refer them in my script and the document file should be here in order for the script to use that document file. All right, so grammar management, this is for text-to-speech and advanced speech servers. So if you have any grammatical files that are provided to you by, let's say IBM Watson or Google text-to-speech, you would upload them in a grammar management. Application management, as I shown you, that we just created an application called demo. Every time you want your script to run, you have to associate your script with an application. And in order for you to execute that application, you need to add a trigger, which will create a CTI route point in Call Manager. So to create application is pretty straightforward. You define an application name, an ID. Now ID is automatically selected, starting with 0. You define a maximum session means simultaneous, how many calls can be allowed. You may have 400 CTI route point, but you may want to restrict only 20 calls coming to script or at a time, an application at a time. And you control that using the total number of session. This is the script that you develop or you select one based on the default one. And these are the parameters that the script is asking you to supply the value of it. We'll talk about those parameters when we learn how to develop a script. Enable the script, give it a description, and have a backup default script if you want to select one. All right, so that's pretty much the overview about day-to-day management of your UCCX platform. You know, sometimes you may have to upload new prompt, delete existing prompt. Maybe you want to upload some customer recorded voicemail, upload some documentation, stuff like that, or make some changes to your system, such as the IP address, the password, or whatnot. All right, so that's the overview about the managing of Cisco UCCX server, and I will see you in the next video.